Now we
Live
gotta
on
go
YouTube?
live. Yeah, on
Hi,
YouTube and
YouTube. Hi, YouTube family. Coming in
alright.
remotely today to join Jared on September 12th, 2025, this beautiful Friday in 2025.
Yes.
Still a sad Friday. We had to have a national incident in Utah on September 10th and then recognize September 11th for the nation. This has been one hell of a week, folks, and I'm sure I don't speak for myself when I say that it's been a rocky time to be an American. It's stirred up some raw emotions in people, and you know what? I have to say that for a lot of years, I'm someone that's always been, hey, let's look at both sides, let's take a breath. And then after this situation, I've been so quick to say I'm done looking at both sides. I think we have to look at ourselves, especially look at ourselves and
Yeah.
go from there. Because I don't know a single person in my life that would do this to another human being. I just don't know anyone. Maybe I do. Maybe I do. I should take that back. You never know somebody. But the fact that humanity is not considered anymore is making me just sick. The fact that I'm seeing celebration of the other side, and I don't lump everyone together. I know it's not my neighbor, the Democrat, who is celebrating online, but there's enough Democrats celebrating online and not enough Democrats calling them out. Because I personally don't know Republicans who have ever cheered for the death of anyone. And if they did, I'd be the first person to say, hey, this isn't okay. This isn't okay. This is not how we behave. We are human beings first. And I see what the governor is trying to do, and I respect it. He's been leading with strength, and he's been leading with boldness on this. And he has asked for people to just stop the violence. Darkness just brings more darkness. We know that light brings more light. So if we can be a ray of light while we are standing up for truth, I think that is the message today. I know Charlie Kirk wouldn't want the world to go ablaze. He did what he did and Turning Point does what they do to avoid civil war by having an open dialogue. So that's where I'm at right now. Let's have an open dialogue. Let's disagree. I hate to say disagree better, because people get so angry at that. They got so angry at Governor Cox for saying that. But the open dialogue and free speech, Jared, you're a free speech absolutist.
Pretty
You
radical.
always have been. But our side has been shut down and silenced. And with our free speech, we need to stop it. Do not silence me. I'm not silencing you. And say what you're going to say. Tell me who you are. Tell me who you are and what you believe. I would much rather know who these people are that are celebrating than have them go dark or be silenced. That's me. I want to know who people are. And I think that the only way we're going to bring more people to a side that is fair and constitutional, believes in the Constitution and the inalienable rights we've been given by God. The only way to bring those people in is to do it with not feelings, with facts and respect. That is something the left is incapable of doing. Incapable. And I'm not going to be a victim of the left. I don't think we should be victims ever. And I'm still gonna do what I do and say what I want to say, just as I hope everyone will, without fear of this happening to them. because if we get dark and we get awful, and we are capable of it. The right is so well controlled because they govern themselves. They control themselves. It's not a whole group of people being told what to do. We don't tell each other what to do. And I can verify that because I am a leader of a party that is so different, vastly different in their ideals. But we can come together on truth, on the document, the Declaration of Independence, and on the Constitution. We can come behind each other on that. And absolute free speech, absolute Second Amendment, absolute on the third. I mean, these are things we can all get behind. We don't do it the same way, but we can do it together behind that. And I think that's what won us this election. And I think that's what will keep the Democrats out of leadership if we continue to behave that way. Not with violence, but with truth. But again, I'm still in a mourning phase. I think, Jared, you've moved on from mourning and you're in the angry phase. And both of us are right. Both of us are right.
Not sure what phase I'm in. That's a big question. All right. Let's
You're in the angry phase.
Oh, we're hearing you now. Let's kick off this intro real quick, and then I'll then we'll fire it up.
Yeah, let's do that.
Live from Utah's Wasatch Front, the pulse of the Mountain West, where the issues that shape your life meet the truth that sets you free.
Is it
Across
not working?
Utah, across the Republic, and around the world, welcome. This is KMMU.
They can hear you when you talk. You know that, right?
I couldn't hear it online or
Really?
on here either.
Huh. Let me see.
But I've been wrong before. So if you're watching right now and you're tuned in with us, give us a thumbs up if you could hear the intro.
Yeah, it was online.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was there. All right. So, okay, here we go. I have labeled this this episode the Progressive Inquisition. And that was where much like the Spanish Catholics and the French Catholics did after they threw the Moors out of Iberia, they started an Inquisition where they would torture people not of the faith, including other Christians. They would torture them and forcibly cause the faith to cause the spread of Catholicism. Right or wrong? Well, I consider what we've gone through it kind of started in the 90s. I remember in the 90s, the words starting to come out, don't say that. But it boiled to a head over the last decade, demanding apologies for you having your own thoughts and your own free will. And I'm done with that. I'm done. I'm done with progressives telling me how I should think and feel. I'm done. I'm out. Their party ended. They can back a dump truck of dicks up to their face and swallow all of them. Enjoy that. But no, that's where I'm at. I'm done. I'm done. They've shown themselves to be incapable of being civil. They've shown themselves to being incapable of showing common sense. And I don't know where Holly went. Holly just dove away. But I'm done with that. That's over. I do not want, and I am not a Republican, but I'm not a progressive. I am a Looney Tunes, far libertarian. I am in the crazy side of libertarianism. And I've never been one to apologize. I'm not going to apologize for what I say or what I think, especially not for what I think. I don't want to see us start judging people for their personal desires, but I am done accepting when they want to push those personal desires on the rest of the populace. I am done when they say we must let that boy who fails at swimming swim against the girls. I'm done with that. Done. I don't want the boy to say, oh, I should be allowed to play soccer against the girls. No. Give the girls their space.
Well, and then add the fact that as a parent, if you have a child who is struggling with body dysmorphic disorder and they're being told by doctors that you have to play along, that instead of saying, hey, we need to help this child get comfortable in their own skin because they can never change their DNA. And we've reverted, in 2017, doctors still called it a mental illness. And
they were bullied out of that one.
Yeah. And parents and doctors, they literally think they're changing science. And the party of science is telling us that, yeah, you can be gender is fluid and you can be whatever gender you associate with. Well, just because we can't placate the whole world, the majority, into a corner with this, with words. We can't hold them hostage or censor them because they're not saying, yeah, I agree that a boy can whack something off and he suddenly becomes a girl and we all have to play in that world.
It's worse than that. They don't even have to whack something off. They just have to say I'm a girl.
Yeah.
No, but I'm done. I'm done apologizing. I'm done giving into your psycho fantasies. I'm done with you burning cities to the ground. And I have to somehow apologize to you? I've never done anything racist in my life. No, you don't get to be racist and then say it's because I deserve it. No, and I don't want you to pay for what your ancestors did, and I am sure not going to pay for any of my ancestors' crimes. I am done with you guys saying that it's society's fault when somebody has made themselves schizophrenic with their life choices with drugs. I'm done. That is not society's fault. And that person shall pay when they cross lines. I'm done.
Governor Cox gave a great speech when they talked about when they found the perpetrator. And out of respect for Charlie Kirk and his family, I don't want to give the perp any recognition. I don't want to use his photo. I barely want to use his name other than to inform a little bit about him, and we'll get into that. But I just don't want to give him that notoriety that he was looking for, whether preferably like in his head or like he thought he was standing up for a group of people. And we'll get into that too. But he said, Governor Cox made a great point. He said, did you notice yesterday and today what wasn't happening in Salt Lake City or Orem or around our state? We weren't burning it to the ground.
Yep.
The right wasn't coming out with their firearms and patrolling.
There was a couple instances. Well, there was, I would say, more celebrations that happened, vigils. And there was one.
He said we had vigils. We didn't have riots.
There was one in, I want to say Idaho somewhere where someone rode by and got derogatory towards the vigil, and they went hands on with him. And I am okay with that. I am okay with, because I'm in a mood for a little bit of vengeance. I did not completely agree with Charlie Kirk on everything he believed, but I did recognize that one, he was bold. He would walk into the lion's den and he would debate those students and professors multiple times. He went head to head against professors. He was bold and he took losses. There were times that he lost an argument and he took it the right way.
Oh yeah.
You know, and those guys didn't. And they proved today that their ideology, one, the stuff that CNN and MSNBC were saying afterwards, it's astounding that they would say those things. And even they had to try to turn it around like it was his fault that somebody shot him.
And it was Trump's fault because, yeah, Trump.
Or whoever's, or whatever, you know, non-progressively aligned entity, whatever. No, I'm done. I am done with them. The only reason in the past decade I've ever watched CNN or MSNBC was just when a clip came up of them saying something stupid. That's it.
And if you guys are still watching propaganda on media that we have in this country, the mainstream media that is coming into your televisions and your homes every single night, I'm talking Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. If you're still watching that for news and you are not understanding that it is a propaganda machine, all of it is designed to keep you watching and also to show you the worst of this country and to place blame, to drive your emotions a certain way. And then all your commercials are drug commercials. And
yeah, brought to you by Pfizer.
Right. It is all by design. If you are not looking to, I don't know, X or podcasters that have shown they have merit, or the Blaze Media Network, if you're not looking to other sources to get information, then I'm sorry to tell you, but you're getting fed one side by design, whichever side it is.
That's a sad thing. It's been made a side. There's two sides. That's like the most depressing part. Like, I don't know where we go from there. But anyways, I kind of want to make this show. I want to do two things. One, we've got a couple announcements to make as we go throughout the show, talking about different things that's going on. But I also want to make it about, one, I want your guys' comments. I want to make this pretty much we read your comments most of the time. And I want to reminisce about some of the ridiculousness that the progressives have forced upon us over the last decade. I want to reminisce, you know, like we brought up one, that the boys are magically girls. And that brings me to one of our first comments we're going to read is Norma says, my mama said I could become a male instead of a female when I kissed my elbow. I'm not capable of that, so I was female my whole life. Yes, that is correct, Norma.
And Jared, I would like to finish off this segment going over what we found out on the perpetrator. So if I could read something.
Oh, of course, yes.
So it's the only time I ever want to say his name. He is
Shitbag McGee.
Teabag McGee, Tyler Robinson. And his father is Matt Robinson, who is a sheriff with Washington County for 27 years at the Sheriff's Department here in Utah. His mother's Amber Jones Robinson. She works in Intermountain Support Coordination Services. She assists people with disabilities. They are both registered Republicans. Their son is unaffiliated and hadn't voted in the last two major elections, so he wasn't on the voter rolls. Matt, his father, contacted authorities and held Tyler until they arrived. They are good humans, and I've seen reports that he did go to Utah State for one semester before dropping out, and he was there on a presidential scholarship. So the boy is smart, but dropped out after one semester, where his parents from a family friend states, now mind you, everything I'm telling you is what they're reporting, but I'm not like news outlet that's going to tell you this as fact. We don't have a way to prove this unless we have his parents on our show, which it's an open invitation. But what I'm trying to do is give some humanity to these parents who did the right thing, knowing that Governor Cox wants the death penalty on this case. And And the father could have got $100,000 reward for turning in his son. He didn't take it. He did the right thing. And this is a man in law enforcement. And I know my father would do the same thing. And I know it would be the hardest decision that he ever made. But people in law enforcement are built different. And, you know, they believe in accountability. At least this father and mother do. And it's said that there were arguments in the family regarding Charlie Kirk. I don't know when these arguments took place, but you know, he was heard saying by a family friend that Charlie Kirk is basically he's the downfall of humanity or the democracy, whatever fly word they try to use. And he was getting angry, and I guess he had a professor, which they haven't named, that he took a liking to at USU. And he basically was getting radicalized with the college mindset. Now, why he dropped out, I don't know. And what his parents thought of him dropping out, I don't know. We do know that he lived by UVU, and Charlie Kirk was supposed to do a show, another one, at Utah State later this month. So I think he picked UVU probably for location. But a lot of people have thought that this was a trained gunman, that this would have been a hit. This kid shot a 200-yard shot, allegedly, from a rooftop. And they believe that you don't have to be a master sniper to be able to do that. He used a 30-06, I believe, with a scope. And he's caught. I don't know if there's a confession, but I do know he's the man featured in the photo. And I think that's the photo that dad recognized and decided to bring his son in. I just want to say that parents, we raise our kids to be good people if we can. We try to do our best. This could happen to any one of us that have kids in the public school system, maybe kids that have mental illness, and kids that maybe have been treated for mental illness and are on certain drugs. Big Pharma is under question right now by the national, CDC, because of the effects of what some of these depression drugs and things might do to the brain, which there's a great article, or there's a great podcast with Tucker Carlson talking to a psychiatrist regarding the medications. I highly recommend, and I'll share it in the comments. They really dive into that. All this being said, these parents are suffering. These parents are suffering just probably more horrifically than most of us around the state. No one more than Charlie Kirk's family, of course. But I can imagine this is a big deal for this guy's family. So hopefully we can give the family some grace and appreciation for doing the right thing and turning him in.
Yeah. A couple more comments. Jordan says, hey guys, Jared and Holly, I was at the Charlie Kirk event the other day. I am still in shock. I heard the gunshot and everyone started screaming and running. It was a crazy situation. Violence is totally wrong. Pray for Charlie and his family and 2 kids during this difficult time. Hearing the gunshot, it sounded like a firecracker. It was just a situation I don't want to remember. And I'm sorry for that, Jordan. That's another thing. It's so many youth were there that they witnessed something that to any side was awful. It's awful. And then Katie over on Facebook says it wasn't the left who killed Charlie. It was a young man who sounds like he's been radicalized by the extremes of the internet. The same ideology of I won't be victimized by the left. When I hear people talk of the left or the right, it leads me to believe they don't truly know the whole of society. It's never black or white. Let me finish. It's never black or white. There are thousands of shades of gray in between. People can mourn for the loss of civility and also not feel a deep well of sympathy for someone who encouraged divisiveness. It's not the left who is in charge right now. The government, top to bottom, is in control of the Republicans. People like me are making life unlivable. I think she means to say that they're making life unlivable for people like her. I don't think she is making life unlivable for anyone. I'm just trying to be a decent human and practice kindness daily. Seriously, who here sounds radicalized when a threat, when I treat a patient, I don't ask them beforehand what their beliefs are. I treat every person I meet, and she works in the medical field, as a valued human, regardless of their political beliefs. It's sad that this isn't the norm. I can match that energy. If anything, this discussion shows that life is to be lived in real life, and just how toxic political commentary has become. A young man who grew up in a MAGA supporting family, steeped in gun culture, murdered one of your own, and instead of looking in the mirror, you've decided to blame every ill in this country on a group of people you know truly little about. The call is coming from inside the house. Well, allow me to praise you for coming on and saying that stuff. First, I want to start out with that. Here's where you are wrong. Yes, the Republicans have the government. The progressives have all of the institutions. This kid grew up in a Republican household. Yes, he went to school in progressive ran schools who preached dehumanization. I guarantee you they did. I know they have. I know what they say in the schools. Then he went to college, also preached dehumanization, which is why I'm pushing for our governor to say we will give not another dime to any of these colleges unless they get some kind of parity in there on their professors. I'm a free speech absolutist, but that doesn't mean I should have to pay for someone's speech that works against my well-being. 2, the stuff he wrote, yes, he got radicalized on the internet. Everyone's trying to blame the gun. So they want us to disarm. When we look around the world, how is Great Britain doing today? They have more people arrested in Great Britain than Russia arrests people for speaking out against Putin. Drink that in. Great Britain is done. Australia built concentration camps during COVID. Now let's bring it back home. Tell me how the left didn't bring us here when Kilmer, what's his name? The guy who does the Late Show that used to be on the Man Show.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel. He called for people who didn't go get the shot to die. He called for them not to get the very medical services you give.
Oh, that
all of your progressive left did that.
The president called
they all dehumanized everyone that had a different political belief. Everyone who said, wait a second, something's not adding up here. Wait a second, they're telling me 1 week, oh, this is going to go away. It's going to stop COVID. A week later, they're saying, it doesn't stop it. People still get it. And it also does harm to youth.
Hey,
that's all proven. That's all proven. So tell me, and I don't want to get after you, but this is born out of the progressive vision right now, where the progressives want to control they want not only to control what you say, but how you think. They want us to believe that if someone says they're a female, they should be able to go and compete against our young women.
Change in their locker rooms.
I shouldn't have to break this down like this. We reached a point of madness. So yes, the pendulum has reached its apex, which is why we're going to start seeing more violence out of the left, I'm afraid. But let's just remember the stuff you guys said during the Summer of Love while cities burned. Well, what is it? 30 people were murdered?
Yeah.
And we were supposed to support that and hold up our fist. No, done with that.
No, we were supposed to wear masks and stay inside.
I'm
They were
done.
burning the cities down.
Yes,
during the pandemic.
Yes, I am done with the progressives. Now, granted, I never really gave in. I'm not a big apologizer. I like to say retard a lot. You know, it's a great word. It's a fantastic word. I'm not going to apologize for it. Matter of fact, I might become a different person who, when someone demands an apology, I give them a nickname. I'm done. I'm done. And I'm not going to disarm. It's not going to happen. We are the test run for liberty. And a part of that test run is a populace that can hold its government at gunpoint. We are that test run. There's nowhere else on earth that has that test run. We are that. We are the test run that you cannot starve us. We can starve, but you cannot starve us. We are that test run that you cannot march us onto trains. You cannot put us in camps. You cannot shut us down. We are that test run. And you leftists had better pull your heads out of your asses and start practicing said test run. Do not give in. Do not become that weak-willed whatever that you find in Europe where they've given up.
Yeah.
Rant over. But Katie, thank you. I know you're a wonderful person, and I do. I'm going to say this right now. I love Katie dearly. She is a wonderful human being, and I would trust her to do medical treatments on me, whatever. I would, 100%. She may have some wrong thoughts, but that doesn't mean I think she's a bad person. And she's never tried to force onto me an ideal. She's got an interpretation that comes from that waspy Northwest.
Now, I would like to comment. I know Katie cares about people. I know that she cares about humanity, and a lot of people from the left do. They care too much sometimes, and they accuse us of not caring enough. Here's the thing. There's a mindset that you just mentioned. The government doesn't control us. They work for us. And our mindset is we're not victims of anybody. We are individuals who determine our own fate. So here's the thing. When we say the left, just like the right, just like the word conservative, I say that's fair, that you're getting grouped in with a bunch of extremists. But when we had the J6 situation, thousands of people were grouped in with extremists. Thousands. And
I was grouped in with them. I'm not a Republican.
Under the jail for years without a fair trial, without evidence against them. This type of thing, yes, we have the power now. It's been 9 months, y'all. It's been 9 months. We endured 4 years without that power. And before that, we had the president, but lost the House.
Well, it's not only the power. We endured 10 years of this progressive march. We've endured. If you've gone to school anywhere since probably before I graduated, you've endured the indoctrination. But we've endured the media coming out and jawing at us about how evil you are and how wrong you are. We endured being the outcast at every group. And I didn't vote for Trump in 2019. I didn't vote. I was impartial. I came on this show prior to the run up and when they were having the primaries, the Democrats primaries, they shut the primaries down. They didn't, Democrats hate democracy.
That was 2024, by the way.
What?
You said 2019 when they shut the primary down and chose her. It was
No. I'm talking the first time when everyone quit so that Bernie wouldn't walk away with it. That was when they all quit on the same day. That shows you the Democrat Party wrote all of them and said, you guys all drop out today because we can't have Bernie taking it because Bernie was poised to take it. The Democrats fought hard in 2016 and in 2015 and 2019 to not let Bernie have it. But
you say fought, I say cheated.
Potato. Anyways, but cheating's fine. You know, if you're not cheating. Anyways, we endured this all that time because it's you guys are at the apex of the pendulum. That there's multiple pendulums, but this one, the government pendulum, was rightly earned by George W. Bush and his follies going into the Middle East. Rightly earned. Now, granted, didn't pan out for you because Obama just upped the ante.
Yeah.
Just with, less support for our military over there.
Now, keep in mind the Senate gave him permission to go over there.
Sure.
It was a Democrat Senate as well.
Sure. Don't care. Look,
in our house, all of our houses.
I'll be honest. If you're in government, I don't care what party you're in. Most of the time, you're kind of the same to me, whether you're Dan Crenshaw or Feinstein. I mean, you look the same, you get paid by the same, military industrial complex. Most of your contract or most of your campaign money comes through the same funnel, whatever.
Okay, it was still my turn, remember?
Yes. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, with what happened, to try to blame it on being raised in a MAGA household, we have no idea if it was a MAGA household. His parents are registered Republicans. We have no idea if his dad marched or his mom marched or what. Police officers and people in nursing, like they are, tend to not share their political ideas very often because it doesn't bear well for them in their jobs. They want to help everyone. Just like you said, you don't ask people for what party they belong to when you're treating them. It's no different. Police don't ask you what party you belong into when they come to your house because you're a victim of a crime or any of that. Nurses, that's the beauty of their jobs, is they're not out there like I am as a MAGA person, or like Jared is as a anarchist, or
radical.
This is not the fault of MAGA. It's not the fault of Charlie Kirk. This is at the hands of that individual who made a choice and a decision. And I think it's bigger than just, oh, I'm mentally ill and I just want to snuff this guy out because I don't like what he's saying. I feel like there's a series of yeses he took in his life and let the devil himself in. Now, whether or not people believe there's an evil and good fight in this world is up to them. But personally, I believe there is one. And I believe that the reason that Charlie had to go in people's minds and why they're celebrating the loss is because he was effective. He was effective and he was giving hope to young people. He was taking back our youth and telling them the truth about what's awaiting them in college, after college, in government, when their taxes and where their money goes. And he was telling them the truth that the government works for them and that they shouldn't be victims of anything, that they are all human beings and all of them matter. Life matters. He was giving a message about God, about Constitution and Declaration of Independence and empowerment, and he was inspiring a generation.
It's not just that.
Him dangerous, and he did it with respect.
Yeah, and he was winning arguments, which is why he had to get shut down. He had to get shut. The progressive mind could not handle that argument. They couldn't handle someone taking the stage. Couldn't handle someone that would come to the lion's den and beat him on their turf. He was, and yes, he would lose arguments, but he won a lot more than he lost, and he won them against professors. I watched one the other day when he asked a professor about I can't remember the exact historical context. But the professor didn't know it, and this is a guy who came up to argue him and didn't know what he was talking about. And I was like, good hell. But anyway, so now Katie says, you all about to lose the House in 2028.
We'll see.
House again in 26. Our government will be divided once again when the government doesn't function the way it was intended. People feel powerless. Well, okay. I wonder, I think you may need to be, Katie, pissed off at this guy a little more than you are, because he may have just secured the Republicans a little more strength. I'm just saying.
Did you let Katie know about his ammunition, by the way?
Well, yeah. I mean, he had trans stuff and all the progressive marching orders written on his ammo. But he made a martyr.
He absolutely did.
Charlie Kirk just got a lot more reach than he had before. And that's an awful way to have to go about it. But we'll see. I'm not going to make any calls on 2026. That is a whole year away. And I am not that crazy. I am very crazy.
It'll start in January. But here's the thing.
I'm not that crazy. But I want to finish off with this. Now, if you want to say the government doesn't function the way it was intended, you need to look back to your progressive ideologues. You need to kick off with Woodrow Wilson, who dreamed of a administrative state, a state where everything was controlled through them. His own words, not mine. Look to Colonel House, and he wrote a fiction book about it called The Administrator, and they wanted credentialism to be the controlling factor on whether you carried any value in this country. And then you need to look to FDR. FDR made that administrative state happen. FDR, by the threats of packing the courts and the threats of, if you don't vote my way, I am going to trample you, and building that administrative state and making it that today you have Congress people who don't do anything in Congress. Honestly, our Congress people, they're lackadaisical. They never make any motions. They never do anything. That's FDR built that. And I would honestly argue he built that with purpose. That was the design. FDR is the one who designed this modern state to where everything goes through the executive, through regulatory bodies. Your EPA and everything else. These were all built after him, but they all go through the executive and they all carry more power than the Congress. The EPA, the ATF, the FBI, all those are more powerful than Congress because of how it was built in the 40s through threats by a man, great man, whatever, but he built those. So you need to look to the progressives to say, hey, you've kind of messed this up. I mean, the 10th Amendment's gone because of FDR. Franklin Delano Roosevelt tore us down.
She makes that comment that the government doesn't run as it intended. If you look at the Constitution, the government was not meant to run the way it's running. If the government runs as it's intended, it's protecting every American within its borders. It's handling the tariff situation, and it's handling work with foreign affairs and all of that. The government was never intended to be in every aspect of your life. Mm-hmm. And then she mentions, if this was had the killer been a young man who was gay or trans, would you offer the same level of compassion? This is something about the right that I don't.
Well, hold on. Had the killer been gay or trans? The killer was a furry.
Okay, and the killer.
That's what it's looking like. I mean, he had a whole bunch of furry stuff.
Let me finish, Jared. And then the killer doesn't matter what he is. We don't care. What we care about is what he did, and what flags he showed before, and what caused him to get there. It doesn't start one semester in a college. It doesn't start because your parents vote Republican. This starts either through mental illness or through progressive ideals in school, and some brains aren't meant to handle that and they crack. I don't care if this was a black shooter, a female shooter, a gay shooter, a transgender shooter. I don't care. The last major gun shootings have been with transgender shooters. It doesn't make it any less horrific or any less reasonable to figure out what is happening. Why are they doing this? Why is this an option in this day and age? I have compassion for the shooter's family, but I'm not sparing compassion for this shooter. No, I'm done with that. whatever he's gone through to get us here, he took away a life. And whether it had been Charlie Kirk that day, or one of those students at the university that day, or one of the police officers that day, he took away somebody's life. And what he thought he was going to do is end it. He started something way bigger than he could have ever imagined. And I know a lot of people don't look at it like Charlie's gone. No, Charlie is now the martyr who has started a movement, and it's going to be way more effective. And more people are going to come out against this line of talk. If you're going to call MAGA people the devil, if we're going to be called racists who hate, we don't like gay people, and we don't like foreigners and all of that, and we're just going to be accused of that. We've already been accused of that so much. It's absolutely not true. We have gay members of MAGA. We have immigrants that are members of MAGA. It's about the message. And we want to protect human rights, from the littlest, tiniest humans that exist within our planet that are still in the womb, to the people who are old and unable to fend for themselves. We want to protect every life. Every life. That is an unfair accusation that we would have more compassion or less compassion if we found this out about the shooter. We found out about the shooter. He's been struggling with his sexuality, but the left would call it, it's not struggling. They know who they are. Well, he thinks he's a furry. Are we supposed to play a lie? Is that what we're supposed to do? We're supposed to pretend with him? I love costumes more than most people I know. I'm a big nerd at Comic-Con. But just because I put on a tail and purr doesn't mean I go to the vet for checkups and pee in a freaking cat box. This is insane. And this is the level we've gotten to, that all of us have been quiet. We've all been quiet. And school districts have been quietly allowing such a tiny minority to dictate the safety and well-being and common sense of our youth and the people around us. And this is what we're tired of. Yes, I'll look in the mirror all day long, and I can see that I can be better. I can be kinder. I want to always lead with my faith. I am a believer in Jesus Christ, and I know that he is the answer and the way. And I have to speak with truth and maybe be less about feelings. And everyone should do that. But I would try so hard to save your life for whatever reason. Even if I disagree with you, even if you said things horrible about me and my family or lied about me, that happens a lot too. I wish the best for humanity, because the day we stop having dialogue and we allow this kind of violence to be okay, no matter what the reason or who the target, civil war begins. And I'm telling you right now, the left doesn't want to go into civil war with the right. Absolutely not.
The right is where the guns and the training is. But she also says, let's make mental health a priority in this country. I want to barricade on that a little bit. I agree. So let me ask you, Katie, we started kind of having these problems about 20 years ago with these kind of a little extra on the kooky side. Now, JFK, when he was a lowly senator, he put a bill forward. This was in 1958. He put a bill forward to close down the mental institutions in the U.S. because JFK was a complicated guy, because his sister was institutionalized. She had a lobotomy because she was a floozy. Her dad, Joel, was mad that she was going out on the town with different guys. So he had her lobotomized. Joe did. And that made JFK mad because JFK was very close to his sister. So JFK, along with another Democrat senator, moved to shut down the mental institutions that we had. It's in the 1950s. It's wild. Read the whole story. It's wild. But then JFK also, because his wife caught him cheating and she got mad, so he had her institutionalized not 7 years later. It's just really, you can't make this world up. You cannot. JFK is a hero of mine and also the villain. It's great. I mean, he was a war hero, and and just, and as a president, interesting guy, and, you know, really kind of cool, but he was also, nobody's black and white. Nobody's good or bad.
We're human. We're perfect.
But anyways, so that carried on. And then in the 80s, it got worse. Through the 70s was awful. That was when it got defunded. And you read about the stories of the late 70s in those institutions. They were hell on earth. And you can go read about them. And they kept defunding them little by little. And there was still a need for them, but they kept defunding them. And so the idea was that they would be turned over to the states, but the states can't afford to run something like that. The feds defunded them. The states didn't step up and fund them. And it went on like that. And then, bam, they're all released onto the street. We had a spike in homelessness, but there's a bigger thing I would argue that's been going on since about the time I was in middle school. And that's where, especially with boys, this is something scary to think about, is they took boys who were active, and our schools started changing and going away from more do and active learning into a feminine, the progressive style. Progressives are very feminine, and young men don't fit into that naturally. By nature, they don't. And so they start falling behind, and the numbers are all shown. And then they start putting a lot of boys on Prozac early on, or not Prozac, on ADD medication early on. And we all know, all the studies are out that amphetamines cause you to have breaks with sanity. So
do the
that's
Prozac.
a bad thing. And then, well, yes, and then Prozac's invented. So now mental health is never about trying to figure out what you're doing in your life, be it nutrition or exercise or anything else that you can do to improve. Now, mental health is all, you go to a doctor and they'll sit you down. They say, okay, let's try you on this regimen of chemicals. And if that works, they'll leave you on it. And if it doesn't work, you go back and they try a different one. Instead of the doctor saying, look, you need to lose a little bit of weight. You need to exercise a little bit more. Maybe you need a little more sun, maybe your graveyard shift job isn't working well for you, or maybe
your diet
is whatever pursuit. Yes. Doctors don't do that anymore. And now everything is turned over that, do you have a problem? Well, we have a chemical for that. We have a pill for that. We have a pharmaceutical solution for that.
Jared, if I could just say, the treatment of women, especially in those institutions, and why they were sent there for being delirious or, being women, because we would have mood swings or whatever, they would get sent to institutions. Instead, now there's no institution. Now we're going to medicate them. And they were medicated by doctors with a safe drug, the Prozac, that was discovered in the 50s. And here's the thing, all Prozac does is numb you of feeling depths of depression on some people. Some people, it makes them make a plan and want to end it.
Well,
some people it affects differently. But my point
it makes some people hollow.
These medications were getting handed out like crazy for normal, and you can't cure normal, for a death in the family, when you're grieving, when you're a teenager going through puberty and you do get depression because that's natural. Your brain is changing. They're throwing these chemicals at people younger and younger and younger, and there's no accountability as to what they actually do to the brain. Even after they've seen things like gun violence starts going up, school shootings start going up. They used to teach shooting in school, never had a problem. In the 70s, even as early 80s, you could take a gun class.
Well, I lived in Grantsville. We had guns in our pickup trucks into the 90s. Everyone would go hunting after school. It was very common.
But you see that chemical was replacing the institution.
And yes. Where did your camera go, by the way?
When?
Right now.
When I moved this around. Are you not seeing me?
No.
That's weird. I can see myself.
Well, that's good, because we're not.
How about now?
Yes, now we are. Oh, that's a lovely background with the big old flowers.
I had to move just because the sun was just killing me.
she says access to good mental health services is a luxury. You're correct. It is. It is. Our medical system is atrocious. And I can go history lesson 102. So again, we'll go back to Franklin Delano Roosevelt put price controls and pay controls. Companies started making it so they would involve you and give you health insurance. Prior to that, it was generally health insurance. Health care was affordable back then. And then also, if you wanted insurance, it was generally obtained through Rotary clubs. For those of you who are too young to know what a Rotary club is, if you ever pull into a city and you see a sign that has like a Lions Club and an Elks Lodge and Rotary Club, which looks like a gear, says Rotary Club. So if you join one in Philadelphia, you're accepted in one in Grantsville, Utah. That means that if you're traveling and you have an issue, that is, you go to your local Rotary Club, you call them up and say, hey, I'm having an issue, flat tire, kid sick, whatever. And they say, okay, we got a doctor that we pay is on our contract. Go see him. This is the doctor's name. We've called ahead. You're covered. And then that Rotary Club would also at the same time cover the old people in the neighborhood, like the old people that weren't working, maybe didn't have the income. The Rotary Club would go down there and tell the doctor, look, she is now on our ticket, and they would pay for it. And on average back then, now granted, this was the 50s, it's a crazy time, but it would cost $21 a month. That's an average study back then. Anyway, so he put the pay controls on, so I could only pay you. Your pay was locked. Whatever you did, you were locked into that for the 16 years that guy maintained his presidency. Not 16, it was 12 years, well, 11. But anyways, you were locked into that. And so businesses started, first they gave out cars, and then they gave out cars where you got a second car for your wife. Like if you got a Nash Bonneville, they gave you a Nash Metro for your wife. It was wild stuff. Anyone knows what a Nash Metro is? It's the little car. Anyway, so then they started offering health insurance. So the businesses would start paying the doctor. So it moved it out of the private sector into the business sector. Then from the business sector, you fast forward to Nixon, who started kind of the HMO, which now essentially everyone's kind of screwed under that system. Obama just forced it to where they had to cover more stuff. So overnight, my insurance almost doubled. It was wild. It was wild. We had a meeting at work. They called us in. They sat us down, said, you got to re-sign all your paperwork. I know it's not sign up time, but you got to re-sign it. And then it doubled overnight. Prior to that, I was paying, I want to say it was like $85 a month for me and my son. The day after, it was like $200. I was like, what happened? And it's only gone up ever since. Now I pay $700 a month for insurance. It's insane. So
we went from $300 a month to $900 a month. And our deductibles went from $1,000 per person to $2,500 per person. So and that's like catastrophic insurance. Now, the problem with that is the government has no business being in the insurance business, and they put on a lot of restrictions to help insurance companies make lots and lots of money. If they took those restrictions down and made it an actual free market, like the Rotary was doing, and they benefited businesses somehow, if they provided, insurance or said, hey, we've got this policy. If you want to jump on it, it'll save you tons of money, and we'll cover the doctor visits or all of that. And then maybe they get a tax rebate or something. That could work. But get the government and my dollars stop paying for insurance, so that when insurance can't even cover people in California because it's not profitable, it would bankrupt them, and they're bound by these restrictions, and they can't change laws in California about how they preserve water or how they protect their forests. All they can do is just take premiums and then cover huge fires that they had nothing to do with. They're going to leave. And all of that by design, because now it's got to be California's government problem. Now California has to establish their own insurance for the people, and California then gets to profit off the people even more.
Well, yeah. And now, like, you've got those investment firms, BlackRock and that, they're buying up your hospitals and your care facilities, and then they're shooting the gap for more money. So yes, we've entered a state where you no longer have just your doctor and you. There's got to be the government involved and a private equity firm and all this. I don't know. I don't know how to get out of that. I don't. Now, I'm going to lay down. I am an atheist. I am a non-believer in God. I don't belong to a church. I grew up LDS, but I am a non-believer. As church has fallen away from popularity, but hold fast. This latest generation coming up, Gen Alpha, and I think Gen Beta is the one after them, whatever they call them.
Well, Gen Alpha.
What's that?
Gen Z and Gen Alpha statistically
are more religious. Gen Alpha is the most religious generation to come along in 70 years. Drink that in. They're coming along and they're rebelling against this world that has been built for them. And maybe it's just that fourth turning cycle of the times. The boomers kind of screwed us in every way they could, and so now we're kind of trying to whittle our way out of that. And this new generation, maybe it's that hard times and weak men and easy times thing. I don't know, but that's coming along. But churches used to provide mental health, but beyond that, it provided community. And I think community might be what's missing in a number, maybe not even a substantial number, but a number of these people who are suffering with problems. They don't have a community. They don't feel like they have people they can lean on, open up to, and talk to. And maybe if church starts happening again, maybe that'll alleviate some of that.
But Jared, remember during COVID that we took community away from our kids, the ones least likely to get illness.
The mental problems skyrocket after COVID.
And suicide rates have gone up in women and men, but women a lot in this last decade. And
it's the first time they've gone up in women in 120 years.
Yeah,
men have been climbing.
Everybody problem. And Katie is right. We need to focus on everybody and not put people into boxes. But at the same time, every time someone goes to question with boldness, why is it the medical? Is it the upbringing? Is it the schools? You're shunned, you're censored, or you are laughed out of there because no one wants to take accountability or even ask the questions. And when they do, they're considered right-wing fluke or freak because they ask these questions.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but the media we had, your NBC, your CBS, the stuff that you grew up sitting down and watching, put you in one box and put themselves in another. Jimmy Kimmel put himself in a box and opposed you.
Yeah.
If you wanted to live your life different than he demanded, he called for you to die outside of the hospital if you were sick.
And our president,
what was the word?
Enemy of the state.
Yes.
Unvaccinated are the enemy of the state. So our own
and it's
president
proven,
was calling us the enemy.
Yeah, the vaccine did not do what they promised.
No, in fact,
it did not. It was proven. It was
vaccine than they ever let on.
It was known then, and we were outlawed for that. Remember, we didn't choose to become this other side. We were pushed this way because we wanted to have a free thought, maybe an inquisitive question. We were forced out. So,
doctors with the truth were being knocked off of all the social platforms. They were being doxxed. Doctors who had been in this field forever and doctors who were actually using certain drugs, ivermectin or hydrochloroquine, and they were getting results and they were trying to report it in national trials and studies and get published. And they were being totally just ran off the internet, the colleges they research in, the hospitals they work in, all because they were telling the truth about findings they were making. And Americans were the guinea pigs of this drug. And now even Donald Trump is saying we need to take a look at Operation Warp Speed because I'm worried that it did more bad than good.
Well,
you have Donald Trump going back on something that he was full bore for and he helped create. That man is a narcissist in his own way. That to me is so telling that he's questioning it now because when they've got the CDC actually doing the work, The CDC is coming back with alarming numbers regarding that time and that vaccine, to the point where they're not even endorsing RMNA vaccines, RMNA. Is that what it is? RMNA vaccines? The CDC's like, nope, we don't know enough yet. We don't know enough. I know people who are dying of rapid cancers, aggressive cancers, that we didn't have aggressive cancer 20 years ago. Not like this, not with this genome.
What really made me question the vaccine is when it was made political that they didn't release it until after Biden got in office, that I was like, oh, this is just a political maneuver.
Right.
Otherwise, because they had it in November and they didn't release it till like January 20th.
And Kamala Harris and Biden both said they would never take a vaccine that Trump has got his hands in.
So
and
they
second Trump's out and they're in, then they were paying people to take the vaccine, rewarding them, getting businesses to require it without getting their hands dirty. But you could lose your job. They fired people in the military who refused to take it.
They
and
did.
Then they forced it on children who scientifically had the least likely chance of dying from it.
Well, the COVID vaccine was known to not harm the youth, or the COVID virus was known to not harm the youth, but the vaccine actually had a warning label that it might.
It did harm youth.
So it was like they were like the vaccine harmed youth, but the virus did not. And so the argument did not ring true for me. It seemed like it was a mind virus for feel goods, or maybe just a means to assert control. Maybe that's what it was. I had a cousin who was
could be controlled.
I had a cousin who was drummed out of the military. I had a cousin who was also another cousin who was forced into taking the vaccine to maintain her position in the Air Force. I said her position. She did not want to take it. She spent a lot of time researching the negative effects of it and ways to subvert those, looking into kind of hippie methods to extract it from your body. Yes, I believe mRNA. I think mRNA, and I argued this, God dang, back then, that I think mRNA is going to be a breakthrough technology, especially for the treatment of cancer. But I believed what was given out in the vaccine was not a breakthrough technology, and it did not stop the virus. It didn't. People got it after they got the shot. Matter of fact, people who got the shot caught it more than people who just caught the virus. I caught the virus and I was nursemaid for my mother, or my stepmother, and my father, my grandmother, and my uncle, all at separate times. I had it. I had known I had it. So I volunteered. I went in there without a mask, without gloves, and I went in there and fed them and carried them to the bathroom and did all those things. My grandmother was at the time 93. Uncle, fighting cancer, active lung cancer, had it, went in there and helped him out. My father and my stepmother, and it really, the worst one that got it was my stepmother. She had it the worst, for whatever reason. My father had it pretty bad, but I think that's because he wasn't allowed to rest because he was trying to take care of his wife too much. But the vaccine didn't stop any of that. Didn't help that. My grandma had the vaccine and caught the virus. What did it help? It helped her, not have it as bad.
My brother was voluntold to get his in law enforcement, and the hard part of it is that he's had different illnesses ever since. He's so much younger than me, and he doesn't know. He didn't want to take it. He was told to take it because we were in a society where I feel like they were testing us to see which would comply. And apparently 90% of the populace complied. But I always thought, if they're trying this hard to get a vaccine in you, when I'd already had COVID, why? I have the antibodies. Why would I take a vaccine now?
And there's been and what about the increase in miscarriages since then? Could those be? I'm not saying correlation is causation, but could they be
They don't know
causal?
because we were the guinea pigs of this.
Mm.
There's a reason why vaccines take 10 to 15 years to roll out, because they need to go through human studies phases.
It was crazy.
Sure, but here's what I'm saying: like, people I know died from COVID, but I also know people died with.
I will be
COVID
right back.
At that time, they died with COVID, and doctors and hospitals made a lot of money if it said COVID on their death certificate. That right there should tell you something is amiss. A guy in a motorcycle accident comes in because he's got a severe head injury, and just because they test him for COVID, now they can call it a COVID death. People with gunshot wounds died of COVID. This is insane. And that's where we went for 4 years for this with this president, the prior one. So we talk about a pendulum swinging. Even the left voted for him. Independents voted for him. The youth came out in a big way, thanks to people like Charlie Kirk, who were going to them and offering them hope and power over themselves to make a decision for them, and goals. Don't sleep around. Find someone to spend your life with. Make a family. And as a man, take care of your family financially and supportively. And as a woman, be the heart and soul of your family. These are just words from God. They are messages from the Bible. And that was what he did, is he encouraged that to our youth. And it was a message that it affected the youth in a different way. One, because he treated them with respect, and two, because he spent time educating them with facts, not feelings, and three, that he was giving them empowerment, inspiration, and above all else, hope. And this generation was feeling lost, and he came in and did that. Trump did the same thing. Trump never hid. He never decided, well, I'm not going to go on podcasts, or I'm not going to go to this show or that show. He went everywhere he was invited, even though he was walking into a lion's den. And he did it boldly. And this is where I want the members of my party to go. I want us all to boldly speak truth and boldly question with boldness, as John Adams, I think, said. You have to, and if you are a religious person, go to God. God will give you your answers. God gave me mine regarding getting the vaccine right here in my gut. It didn't feel right. I don't like the way this is going. I've already had COVID, so I had my common sense kicking in. But now my children can't go to school, and my girlfriend who's got her kids in sports, her kids all have to be vaccinated to participate in the sport they love, even one bound for the Olympics. And she's got to be vaccinated. And then they're watching children, teenagers, and young adults drop dead of heart issues they never
I
had
know that's
before.
professional
So we can't
sports
ask
players.
questions.
College athletes are dying of heart attacks.
High school athletes.
What is this? But anyway, so Katie says she watched people die in the ICU, and now Trump is tanking. I don't know if Trump is tanking in the polls. I don't know. It depends on who takes a poll.
Right.
That
Always.
I don't know if I trust polls from either side anymore. Norma says it's so scary the government had the power to force us to stay home and be vaccinated against our better judgment. Yes, that's what we've been talking about. Katie
And I
says,
can say this, Norma, the government, what they did is they had a back end power. Yeah, because they couldn't legally tell us to stay home. They asked us, Trump asked for 15 days and all of that. But then it went behind us in 2021 under Biden, where he went to private
Businesses.
industry and said, you got to keep people home. And then it became the businesses wearing that face of, you can't come into work. Sorry, landlords, you can't raise rent. You can't even collect rent if people can't afford it.
My company,
back end power that is terrifying.
My company toyed with the idea of forcing us to get vaccines. And I work for a large company. And then someone said, asked him, are you going to take the liability if it goes awry? And our company shut that down real quick. Once they talked about liability, my company is employs all over the world. Now, here's another thing to drink in. Now, here's the contradiction. Remember, and this, Katie, tell me if you remember this. When in inner cities, they said they were going to give the vaccine only to Black people first. And they're going to, that you had to, they racially, as the progressives do, the progressives only care about race. It's not the conservatives or the Republicans. The Republicans and conservatives honestly don't care at all.
They disguise it as access.
But they expect you to be the same. The Republicans expect a Black person, an Hispanic person, and a white person to be the same. Yeah. Be the same, follow the rules. The progressives want to categorize you by what you are. They want to build different categories and have different levels of what you can be. But anyways, so they said only Black people can get it, right? So then you've got to think to yourself, so either they were delusional and leaning into their racism with their delusionalism, or the progressives truly are still the sons and daughters of the KKK if they knew it was bad and that causes a quandary in my mind when I think about, like, which were they? Probably a mix of both. If you think about it, everything's kind of a mix of both, but that's kind of a wild thought. And
so Katie says, why aren't we talking about the Epstein files?
We have.
What
Didn't
about
it come
the
out?
birthday card that was released? Can I show you something, Katie? If you saw that birthday card, I'm going to show you this. This is Donald Trump's signature, and I have it on a lot of things.
Big fan she is.
I am a big fan. Yes, and I'm a delegate, a national delegate. This signature doesn't match. It doesn't match. The timeline doesn't match. And even if Trump signed a signature on a card, Bill Clinton signed a signature on a card. I don't even know if they have evidence against Bill Clinton, because the witnesses, the victims that have come out have said, no, Bill Clinton didn't do this, and no, Donald Trump didn't do any of this.
That's an interesting thing. And what about that story that Donald Trump was an informant on the Epstein getting arrested? What if Donald Trump was an FBI informant towards the Epstein stuff? And
that would be,
I don't know. I know, Katie, I know you hate Trump, and I know you're hoping and praying that something negative happens to throw him off. And me, I'll be honest, I don't care. I voted against Kamala. I didn't vote for Trump. I know that irks Holly because Holly loves Trump. I am not a person that thinks a president has any value in my life. I think a president. But I know, but hold on. Allow me to finish.
Like Jesus to me. I
know. Allow me to finish. I know. I made just a comment. I apologize. I voted against Kamala's words against free speech, and her words when she ran starting in 2015 in the primary before she was vice president against the Second Amendment. Her words then scared me now, so I voted against her. When they come out and say, well, we need to figure out how to control the internet, I don't want that, because then you're locked into whatever they tell you is what you get. Like, it reminds me, when I think of that, I think of Vietnam, like pre-71, where you didn't know Vietnam was a lost cause, and you didn't know that you didn't know the gore of it and the horribleness of it, because everything that came to you was controlled. And then when Nixon got in and the progressives had to get rid of him, that's when they kind of loosened those rules. If you look into it, it's an interesting story.
I mean,
what's that?
He wanted to get out of the war. I think JFK wanted out.
No, JFK was never in it. Though kind of he was. It was Eisenhower who first sent over advisors. It wasn't until Johnson that we sent over ground forces.
Right. But then he said, we don't need to get involved in that war.
Well,
and here's the thing. If Clinton was involved, Katie says, lock his ass up too. I'm with you. If Trump was discovered to be involved, lock him up. I am absolutely want to end the victimization of children, the innocent in this country and all around the world. There should be heads rolling. The problem is there's so many conspiracy theories because the government isn't being fully transparent, or if they are, act like they are, and then they don't. This is our government, and a government that is too big and too powerful that gets away with this. And I don't care who is in the Oval Office.
I think everyone right now needs to go and just Google Operation Midnight Climax, and that'll tell you what I think it was. 100%.
You're asking people to leave our show right now? Just tell them.
Okay, not right now. Midnight Climax, the CIA set up brothels and recorded people coming to brothels, and then also dosed them with LSD. And I think that was the beginning of the CIA being untouchable, because I think maybe heads of industry, maybe some politicians visited those brothels, got on a camera in front of a Detective White, I think
Or
it was from
royal
the same-
family members.
Yeah. And I think that's just been carried on. I think Epstein is just a part of that. I think Epstein was an introductory force and a little bit of a luring people in to discredit them. And
it wouldn't be the first time it was done, and it wouldn't
No,
be
it
the first
wouldn't.
country it was done in. So
no, it wouldn't.
this is an old school, way to really get people to shut up and be controlled. And that's the thing. If we just demand accountability, like, people in America are so tired of this crap. Let's get accountability, and let's get people in office like your DA, for example, your AG, who are going to demand accountability when they've got evidence and there is a trial and their people are found guilty. Stop letting people out of jail who are violent criminals.
Yeah, that's another thing. I think let's move into that. Let's move into what the announcement of the show is. I think the progressives have caused a low trust society through their judicial political means, through their means where they are racist, proclaiming that it's anti-racist, where they want to DEI and all that. I expect every human being to be an operating human being in our society. I don't care what your race, your color, your religion, your creed. I expect you to be a functioning person. I expect, if you're not, that the society takes the appropriate measures to protect its citizens from you, to protect the masses from you.
It's a racist thing to assume a race can't do something.
Yeah,
That's being so racist to say, oh, you can't do college, so we're going to let you in under our DEI. You can't be working at this big company, so we're going to let you in with DEI. That is so racist to me, that they're saying that blacks or Hispanics or whoever, gay people, trans people, can't get jobs on their own. I think that's hate. Let them be individuals and let them show their merit and earn a spot just like everybody else. Because there's a lot of white kids that can't even get into college because they haven't worked hard enough. Their grades are crap.
What about the Asians that won? They beat Harvard in front of the Supreme Court because Harvard was being racist.
Yes.
I think DEI is racism. Bush did one thing extremely right, and that's when he coined that phrase, the racism of low expectations, or the bigotry of low expectations. But I want to pivot a little bit. That Irena Zarutska, we all know her story. It's a tragic story. That guy who stabbed her, he had been arrested 14 times. I think somewhere along that mark, maybe just having a blanket 3 strikes you're out, because I think maybe, it needs to be in a violent, and sometimes they would blind them where, it's a drug charge, but the federal government have moved in and made it, if there's a weapon involved, it all of a sudden becomes a federal gun charge. Maybe that is wrong to wrap it up like that. But 14 violent arrests and convictions should have made it so that Captain douchebag should have been living his life behind bars. Maybe throw him in introduce him to his new boyfriend named Tank, and they can figure out
put him in
how
a
to
mental
play house.
facility. Like, his mother begged the government, please get my son off the streets. He is a danger to other people, including his own sister, his own mother. They were begging prosecutors, please.
Yeah. And she just released him without bail. Now, maybe that's a cost-saving cut on her part, and maybe that means we've done something wrong in our facilities. But we also need to make it so that we have a high trust society. Again, we have built a low trust, especially in the cities. The cities are so low trust. They've just become cesspools. The big cities are cesspools. When you've got a where's the homeless person poop map for San Francisco, something went awry. And the government has never solved a problem for us. How is California doing on its rampage against homeless numbers go up every year since they started that?
Yeah, but you wait. The Olympics are coming. You're going to watch them get rid of the homeless like that.
Yeah, the homeless will be moved to other cities, just like Salt Lake did to Tooele. Salt Lake, when the Olympics came, put the homeless on buses and dropped them off in Middle Canyon. And we should actually have an accountants for that. That should be something that is, whichever mayor or governor signed off on that, they should have a trial, and they should have to maybe spend a little bit of time behind bars, because one, that's mistreating the homeless. They're not just pawns you move around the table for your entertainment. Two, that's mistreating someone else.
It's a drain on a county resource, a huge drain, and it becomes a responsibility of our tax dollars. And you want to talk about low trust society? Look at even the small towns. They don't trust the government. They're not trusting even their neighbors sometimes, because they were put against each other during COVID. They were forced to fight each other during the election time. I just think that I saw more cohesiveness in 2024's election than I ever saw in 2020 here in our small community. But the press's job is to keep us mad at each other. And the more you talk about racism and what's racist and all of that, the more angry one side becomes, and the more quiet the other side becomes, out of fear that they're going to be accused of being racist. How is it racist to say we're all individuals with the ability to do whatever we put our minds to if we work hard, and we can do it? And I don't care what color you are, what sex you are, what gender, or who you sleep with. You are just as good as anybody else if you do the work. But no one should be handed anything. And it's racist to say that we don't want violent criminals or people who break our laws to get across our borders in this country. That isn't racist. That's us believing in the law. Why have the law? Why have the law?
Now, Katie also
right now.
Katie also brings up California is the fourth largest economy in the world. Yes, with the highest disparity between the middle class and the upper class. That means California has the wealthiest people in the world and the poorest people in the world, or the poorest people, not in the world, probably not even in the country, but they have a lot of poor people. There's a heavy disparity there. That means, and maybe we'll lead into this argument. Me and Holly have this argument that I say, we're reaching a critical point where our elite class is outpacing our working class to a degree. It's like 3,000% right now, which is crazy. And the only other times this has reached in history always ended with civil war. Always. It did it in Rome 3 times. It just always ends this way. It did it in France. It did it in Russia. I mean, every time you had these bad outcomes. So I think we have a moral lapse in our elite, and California shows that. California has all those homeless and that great economy. I don't think you're showing how awesome it is necessarily.
No.
I think you're showing how there's something wrong there.
And
now, granted, California was the fourth largest economy in the world once before, and that was in the 70s and 80s. And then California brought in this heavy regulatory state, and it knocked it down to like the 10th largest economy in the world somewhere around 2005 through 2010. And it's grown back up mostly through tech, even though
Silicon Valley, yeah.
companies that employ people are leaving. Nissan left, Tesla left. All these companies that provide jobs are escaping. So that means now you've got wealthy people that don't employ as many people making all their wealth living in California, which honestly that I would, if California wasn't a nutcase. California is the most beautiful place on this planet. It is the perfect weather, the perfect everything, but it has, it's gotten to where California is now, has this big gap between the haves and the have-nots. And that gap is growing wider. California is like what you would show future historians to explain our dystopia.
What not to do in policy as well. California's policies are crazy. They're crazy. And when you do have that much money in your state, they kind of can be, because they got to pay for it from the taxes, and they've got high taxes. And they are pushing businesses out because they're not helping. They're making it worse. And Katie, you mentioned that didn't Donald Trump get rid of the homeless in DC? Let me tell you what Donald Trump did in DC. He got rid of the homeless camps. He has institutions for there. There's shelters there. All they did is say, if you are homeless, go to a shelter where you're going to get shelter, food, and we'll get you back into work somehow. We'll get you on the program. But you don't have the right to set up these camps in the middle of this area of the city. The city, the taxpayers fund, you don't get to set your camp up here. And that's what happens in a lot of places that clean up homelessness, like Vegas, for example. When I was in Vegas, the homelessness was insane. And they had the shelters to fill them. The homeless didn't want to go in a shelter. They wanted to roam the streets. They wanted to ask for money and panhandle right there on the strip.
Well, the reason they don't want to go into
said,
shelters is because they have to be clean in the shelter.
Okay.
Homelessness is a drug problem.
True.
100%.
Give them an option to go somewhere else.
I think.
And in DC, absolutely, the capital of our country should absolutely be a place where every place in the country should be a place where you shouldn't be afraid to walk down the street. But the lower class, financially class folks are celebrating a 96% approval with the changes made in DC. And you've got people in Chicago that are in these neighborhoods where the shootings happen every single weekend. They are pleading to the US government because their governor won't even hear it. And I don't want Trump going into somebody's state and using the military. I'm absolutely against that.
Yeah, that was a big argument you had.
I would love a governor to go to the president and say, what do I need to do to clean up my city or my state and make it safer? Give me ideas and advice. But at the end of the day, it is the governor's choice. It is the people of Illinois' choice to have any involvement. And governors will stop that. And they're not handling it. And the people there, especially in impoverished neighborhoods, they're the ones suffering. And they're also not allowed to own a firearm.
And they're losing their
explain
kids.
That to them. It's their kids that are dying. Yes.
Imagine if you're a nurse mom who, makes enough to rent that, decent enough house, but it's kind of too close to the bad area of town, and you lose your son to becoming a gang member. That's what's going on there. Those poor mothers. And also, we've got to get rid of this welfare state. Welfare state has to go. All it's done is cause single mothers. Single mothers are the number one predictor on whether a young man's going to go to prison, whether a young woman's going to dance on a pole. That's the number one predictor. We've got to get rid of the single mothers. And Katie, you know this intrinsically. You're living your life the correct way. Think about that. Drink that in. That you expect one thing from yourself, but you don't want to expect that from others.
And I'd like to say to Katie, and I mean this so sincerely, that I appreciate you chiming in and leaving your comments.
Yes. I
And
actually kind of want to bring her on. We need
I
a
have to say
Democrat
that
voice.
we absolutely agree that mental health is a epidemic in this country. And I fully believe that resources need to go to mental health studies and housing, and to protect those who are suffering with it, and to protect society from the what ifs that could happen with certain mental health illnesses. I think we have to secure our borders to try to get some of the drugs coming across. That's part of it, because you're right, when drugs and mental illness cross, it is ugly. And every one of our kids could be a product of mental illness. Any one of our kids could be drug addicts. All we can do is raise them well and the best of our ability. Again, the government's job is to protect us. That's their literal job spelled out in the Constitution, to provide protection. And so that's what I want Trump doing, protecting our borders, keeping drugs from coming across, while providing a plan for the mental illness in this country, because we are in total agreement that it is a huge issue. And people shouldn't be afraid in this country. They shouldn't. They should be able to own a firearm if they want. That's in the Constitution. But they should also not have to be afraid to walk to their kids' school, have their kids in school, walk home, have their kids play in the front yard and not get shot. I mean, the more gun violence that we see in this country is committed by the actual statistics show 24% is suicide by gun. That's higher than normal. And it's higher for women exponentially. When you have a bad economy, when you have a tough time in this country, suicide goes up. When mental illness is still an issue and they can't get good mental illness, suicide goes up. Then you get the rest of the problem with mental illness, and then these mass shootings. They've gone up. What do we do? How do we provide mental illness care without putting people in danger and protecting the person suffering? And we've got to get drugs out of their system for sure. We have to have them, want to get the drugs out of their system. We have to provide it. But trust me, I'm somebody that's had to deal with the fear of somebody who is not well and watching over my shoulder all the time. And just knowing that person is in jail gives me peace. But I know I can't be there forever. And I think that I'm worried that if it's not me, it's going to be someone else that's a victim of this person. And what do we do? How do we do this? The government is supposed to protect us. They're supposed to protect the citizens of this country. And I just say we have to start somewhere. Start the border. Let's get the drugs out of the border, and the guns and the things, the legal stuff that's being transported over this border. We have to go back to the family unit. We have to go back to our faith, but we have to put more, everything at school, everything in these kids' culture and life should focus around the family, because families are torn apart by design. It's because kids who don't stand up for anything will fall for everything. And that's an absolute truth. And they get them while they're young, and they get into college. There's no diverse thought in college. It's an echo chamber. It's rare to be an out loud Republican in college campuses, and everybody knows that. We have to bring it back. We have to, because I feel for people with mental illness. I really, really do. And they deserve protection. And we as a populace deserve protection.
We should have just brought Katie on. She says, I realize how incredibly privileged I am. My mom was a single mother in California, where I grew up, and had a good job and access to resources. I work with families every day who don't have that privilege. Yes, and there are lots of parents from every race and stripe and religion and whatever who don't go out and pursue improving their life. I know I have people in my extended family who fall into a job and stay there even though it doesn't support their family, and just stay there and don't work for it. I think when you become a parent, you're supposed to lose yourself to your kids. You're supposed to, you brought a child into this world. You then turn and dedicate yourself to that child. Now I know I'm also pro-life. I know it's weird, not religious, pro-life, but that's because I believe that as a libertarian, I believe libertarianism is freedom through responsibility. And
Yeah.
if you're going to lay down with someone from the opposite sex, you have taken on a responsibility at that point. And I don't think anything or anyone should have to pay the price because you made a decision in the moment.
It's
That's
a
how
human
I
life.
believe.
It's a human life, and we protect life.
I'm crazy like that. I don't think that because if you lay down with someone, you should be able to go kill a puppy or, kick a kitten off a house. I feel the same way about a zygote.
But I have to say,
But that's my feeling. And
that-
I also don't want to force morality on you.
yes, but if we as a society,
You're not allowing me to
fit-
finish.
because you're taking long pauses. Sorry, but I don't want to forget the thought. If we
Yes.
as a society quit dehumanizing an embryo, we have to humanize it. It's a human life. It's an individual person with its own DNA, even at the time it's created. If we quit dehumanizing life, we may see less crimes against people.
So you
That's all
stole
I'm
my
saying.
thoughts so you could finish yours?
Was that your thought?
No, you didn't allow me to finish.
Why are you taking
I-
a long time?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to put my thoughts together. I don't jump in when you breathe. I believe you must take responsibility for your actions in life. That's how you build a positive society. Yes, when you make the choice to lay down with someone else, you're taking a responsibility into whatever, into luck, into chance, into whatever, into God. You're taking that chance. That becomes a burden you take on. And I am sorry if that's a burden you don't care for. Now, I am fully okay with adoption centers and all that. I'm fully okay with those, but I'm not okay with just snuffing out a life. I think, to me, that leaves a bad taste in my mouth that, I chose to live my life free, so something else has to die for that, which is ultimately what is happening. Whether you believe that that something else is a human or not, it has to die so you can. But I'm also a hunter, so how weird is that, right? We're all gray, all contradictions.
Well, I mean, you're not a religious man, but God said the animals are here to feed you.
Yeah.
So, but he also said, do not murder. So, not animals. You're supposed to feed off animals. That was the Bible. But a human being, no matter how small or how old, deserves life and human
Yeah.
rights. You
Yeah.
can't be a human rights activist and not count that little human.
Yeah. But, I believe that responsibility is you fall into your children. You pursue some hardships to make sure your children have a better opportunity at life. And it sounds like, Katie, your mother did that. And I know for a fact that you and your husband are both doing that for your children. And,
Well, you read her comments.
What's that?
Her comments are so
I'm kind of
good.
responding to one. The one where she grew up in a single house. And then she
Yeah,
says,
so did
okay, we'll forget where I was at and we'll move on to, so let's stop arguing about how awful the left is and how awful the right is and actually do something good for our community. Okay, well, my argument for that is the government needs to retract from our everyday life. The progressives, there has been a progressive inquisition. That's what I named this show. And that's what there has been. For the last decade, if you said anything outside of it, they worked to cancel you. They They kicked you off the TV. I mean, Tim Allen, it came out he supported Trump. They canceled his show. Roseanne Barr, whatever she said, she said it was wrong to that Jarrett lady. Sure, but they canceled her show. That never happened the other way. It only went, all these damages only flowed one direction. We need to stop, either it flows both and we have equity, or it goes neither, right? The progressives has gone long enough that they have canceled anyone that wasn't in their religion. Progressivism is a religion. Again, I am not religious. They canceled everyone that wasn't in their religion, canceled them off TV networks, pushed them out anywhere they could, right? They had one place they could end up going, and that was Fox News or the internet. You guys pushed Joe Rogan out. Joe Rogan was fully in the progressive left. He was a Bernie supporter, all of that. And you guys pushed him out. Or I shouldn't say you guys, the progressive, the movement pushed him out. So the Progressive Inquisition needs to end. And I'm hoping it's over. I'm hoping that this tragedy that happened where a man was murdered in front of his toddlers. I'm hoping this is a moment where that ends. What I'm worried about is the left has been pushing their radicalism so long. Summer of Love was ugly. The only time this show's ever been canceled is when either A, we spoke out against the left, or B, we spoke out against the COVID lockdowns. You guys have had your way and it's been ugly. And God, you need to stop, because you're going to make the right wing rise up. And what comes out after that? I mean, anyone sit down and read about the Weimar Republic. They had an argument between the left and the right there. And when the argument goes to fist, the masculine wins. That's it. I don't want to live in that world.
Well, yeah, and you just said fists. I mean, it's a biggest, scarier game when it goes to firearms. And masculine or not.
Well, the masculine always wins. The Bolsheviks were masculine. They won.
So
the Nazis were masculine. They won. We're looking at all of Europe is kind of in an uproar. All of the Western world is kind of in an uproar. Can you progressives take a minute, pull your head out of your ass and say, can we not figure out how to live in parity? Or do you want to force it into that? Because you are not masculine. You are a big bunch of pussies.
Okay. Well, there are ladies on the show.
Oh, I apologize. Vaginas. Really.
Science.
You really are. And I'm not saying that disparagingly. That's just your character. That's what you are. In the West, the progressives, the Marxists, I don't like calling them, they're more Hegelian, really is what they are. But they are weak.
They're social communists.
They're feminists. They're feminized, where the Bolsheviks were masculine. And that's why they won. Because, I'm sorry, patriarchy wins. It does. It's the men who give you the right to vote. It's that force. And I'm sorry, it's the duality of nature, whatever. It's how it is. You guys have a distinct ability to bring life. Beautiful. Most important thing any human can do is make life. The most important thing. Men are really only have one power, and that's to take it.
Okay. That's really deep, actually. Norma says mental illness shouldn't be an excuse to do what you want. Morality needs to be taught at home and at the elementary age in school and reinforced in higher grades. And I agree. And Jared and I have a difference of opinion kind of on morality, basically because of you know, I believe in God and he's an atheist. I believe God is the standard and his commandments give us that rules to follow. And if you have any desire to be with Jesus in the afterlife, you're going to follow those rules and respect those rules. And that's where the moral foundation comes from. And that's what I would teach my children. And Jared's thing is, it's the right thing to do. You don't hurt the innocent and you protect the innocent and you protect your family. And that's his moral obligation to himself, right? Without a faith, that's kind of what you were saying about you're not a religion guy, but you are an accountable individual who believes in himself. And I agree with that. Katie says that she was adopted, and that is beautiful to me.
Very,
I mean,
very
there
beautiful.
are 2 million people waiting on an adoption list and 1 million babies getting aborted every year. Like, yeah, if a woman had to take responsibility for having sex, and we're not talking about rape, incest, and all that, that's not even 1% of this. But if they did take that responsibility and accountability and say, I don't want to raise a child right now, I don't want to do that, but they're going to give themselves 10 months, 40 weeks to make sure this human isn't slaughtered because of their bad choices, and give it to a family, give that baby to a family that would love it and cherish it and work as hard as possible to keep that child alive and safe and in a good place. I think that's amazing. And for families who, I mean, I struggled not able to have kids for many, many years, and I would have loved to have been able to adopt a baby. I would have loved it. And it's a hard process. And I think it needs reform. And I think that young mothers who are in that predicament, they need to see an ultrasound. They need to hear a heartbeat. They can't think it's a clump of cells. It's a human being, and it's got its own DNA and its own little heartbeat. And it is a blessing. And so I just think it's so important that people realize the humanity involved, and we stop talking about zygotes and embryos in a way that disconnects people from the real word. It's a human baby.
Pregnancy should be a celebration like it used to be.
Yeah. And
I always celebrate pregnancy. Anyone I know gets pregnant, I cheer them on when a new baby's born. You know, we need to celebrate that again. Norma says the feminine uses poison, RE, the vaccine. Oh, shots fired. Katie says, I'm teaching my children to be good humans without the dogma of religion. Good. I hope that I'm being a good human without the dogma of religion. I try to be honest in my affairs, decent to the people I know. I try to be bold. I'm trustworthy. I try to uphold myself with character. I believe that religion does not hurt your honesty, I believe, or does not hurt your ability to be a good person at all. Yes, some people do bad things with religion, as some people do bad things with everything, just like progressives have done bad things with their religion of hope for a brighter future with a utopia.
And they're almost like a cult of death on some things. They're absolutes on murdering babies and absolutes on shutting people up. And I don't mean to, I'm not saying everyone, I'm just saying the extremists on the left. But I also don't like organized religion. My faith is my own. My relationship with God is my own and my family's, and I try to raise my kids that same way. I don't like organized religion. I think it is fallible, and I find I'm closer to God with my own time and attention and study of his word. So
here's my wild thing. I love organized religion.
You do, yeah.
I do. I love it. I'm the weird. I know I'm weird. I'm a non-believer, but I love it. I love studying it. I love reading about it. I think religion is the best snapshot of the people at that time. I think what they believe in, what they hold dear, is the best snapshot of who they are, of what they think, of what their struggles are. It's interesting. And look, I don't want to make adoption illegal. I don't want to do away with it. I want to. I'm more of a person. I don't want government force. Like me and Holly have this argument that I think the disparity between the elite class and the working class is too far, but I don't want the government to step in and correct that. I think it's a failing of morality, which I think abortion is also a failing of morality. And I would rather we figure out how to teach morality or give people a different moral outlook so that those don't become an issue. So that if you're going to go and have sex with your girlfriend, you get protection first, so that there's not that life in there. And yes, everyone's going to argue there's still a chance, whatever. And if it's a fluke, I mean, it's a fluke, but I hope for those things. I think it's a tragedy that for your fun, you would eliminate the life of someone else. And I think that just feels weird to me. That just, and maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm looking at it all wrong, whatever, but that leaves a taste of ash in my mouth.
Yeah, I believe it is, you're saying it exactly right. That someone has to die so that you can have some fun. And I used to know women that used it as birth control.
Yes.
And it makes my heart sick, especially after struggling to get pregnant myself. It just, it's a blessing anytime. It's such a miracle that from the very start of its creation and the flash, and then the heart starts beating. I mean, it's a miracle.
The quickening.
It's amazing to me. And babies are a blessing. And I totally agree. So I think she said, I don't think anyone with two brain cells to rub together wants to live in that world. This is what I was getting at. And what the far right, when the right goes extreme, that's where fascism is born. Mm-hmm. And that's
when you don't give them an opportunity to be open in the world, they go to the extreme. That's where you get your that Tate guy. He's someone who's living in the extreme because he wasn't allowed to function in the world. So he goes into the dark. You can't do that. There was, just to cause parody, there was a guy named Vladimir Lenin who was the son of a nobleman in Russia. And he got kicked out of Russia because he would go to protests because he wanted the peasants to have more rights. And so they kicked him out of Russia, and he then lived in other Western Europe. England was the last place he lived, but he spent most of his time in Poland or in Sweden or Switzerland, I believe. But they pushed him into the dark, where he fomented and then built this movement around him. And it was that allow people to be a part of your society if they disagree with you. Debate them, talk to them. Charlie Kirk was a hero for doing that. He would talk to them. He would go and talk and discuss and tell them where he disagreed or find agreement. And for that, they called him Nazi and fascist and racist. I watched a video the other day. This black woman came up and talked about her having a black baby. And he said, that is a gift from God. Would a racist say that? No, but the left made it a point that everyone that disagreed with them were one of three words: fascist, Nazi, or racist. You had to use that on any one of them. And now I see on Facebook, my progressive friends go out and say, oh, well, he was a racist. They can never prove that he was, but they'll say that. And that's where we've come to an impasse. Now, I've said some bad things about progressives, but you've actually done all those things. I brought up the points. Jimmy Kimmel saying that people who didn't get the shot should die is dehumanizing.
can I add that Charlie Kirk also, in these arguments regarding abortion, for example, he could get people to agree on certain issues, but he said, I remember one interview, he asked a woman, well, do you think it's okay to abort a baby if they're born with that, if they're going to have Down syndrome? And she said, yes. And he said, what if they're going to be born a girl and you want a boy? And one gentleman said, yes, you should be able to abort. It's my body, my choice, or her body, her choice. And he said, you are describing exactly Hitler's plan.
Eugenics
To a T, dehumanizing the innocent. And that's how fascism is born.
And if you want to talk religion,
call it another name, but you
are
seriously killing an innocent person based on their race or sex or mental well-being.
That is feeding the blood throne of Moloch right there.
And that's what I was trying to get you, because I know you mentioned Moloch before. And I think for me, we have demons in this society, but for the history of it, tell them what Moloch.
Never worship a harvest god. Well, Moloch, he comes from Carthage, and the Greeks wrote about it first, and then the Romans wrote about it. So he was he was a god that was a horned god, a bull, and they would light a fire under a brazier that was under his outstretched hands, and they would lay the infants on there and sacrifice them to harvest gods. Harvest gods are the worst gods, always. Aztecs, all of them. Harvest gods are evil. Baal, they would sacrifice to Baal, and that was to make for a better harvest. And a couple of years ago, they actually found the sacrificial graves of the babies in Carthage. And so for the longest time, they didn't believe it. They believed it was kind of just writings of their enemy, of the Romans and the Greeks, though the Greeks weren't really their enemy, but the Romans definitely were. I mean, Rome, that's where Africanus comes from. But it's wild. That feels like it's always to gain wealth. And if someone came out and told me that our leadership class worships Moloch, I wouldn't be surprised. We do know at Bohemian Grove, the Republican meetup place, they have a cremation of care where they say a prayer to Moloch and burn an effigy of a child. And I'm not making some crazy notion about that, but man, what if? Oh, that's a scary thought. If our leadership is in some kind of weird death cult.
It's modern day. That's what abortion is, modern day. They're sacrificing children for the sake of their fun and culture.
They're doing worse or better, however you're going to put it. They're not sacrificing children. They're teaching you that it's a good thing that you sacrifice yours.
Oh, yeah.
And they get to benefit from it.
Don't sacrifice their own. Excuse me. You're right.
How wild is that? And all these elites that preach to you that it's okay to live this free love life or whatever. None of them live that. That should tell you right there. None of them go out and get abortions. None of them go out and get divorces. None of them go out and raise children in fatherless homes. None of them do that. They live the conservative life and preach to you to live this life so that they continue to have subjects.
Hey, that same thing goes with the software designers of Apple and Facebook, and they don't let their children have Facebook. They don't let their children be on the iPads and screens. They don't even let their children go to public school.
Yeah. Anyways, we got to cut this show down because I do have to go to bed tonight because I got to wake up early and go hunting.
Well, then
anyways, Katie,
something, please. I got to do my advertisement.
Yes, but Katie, she says, Holly and Jared, thank you for the discussion. I appreciate you both. Love this leftist. Katie, I'm going to tell you this right now. You and I have had lots of discussions on Facebook. We've met in person twice. You are a beautiful human. And I truly, from the bottom of my heart, do love you. I do appreciate you. I am glad you're here. I am one of those who wants parity in the world. I want to have friends that are on the left. I don't think it's healthy to have just a conservative ideal. We do need to have progressives pushing the bounds. We have had times in this country where conservatives dominated and it was ugly. And we just went through a time where progressives dominated and it was ugly. We need parity. We need to have that discussion. We need to have you can't have a car with only a gas, and you can't have a car with only brakes. You need both.
And I appreciate you as well, Katie. I always appreciate you're always respectful and you're always open in dialogue. And I know we don't sway you as far as your ideals. I respect that a lot, of how much you believe in them. And I know that you are not alone, and that helps us learn. And it certainly helps me learn in my role with the Democrats or the Republican Party. I always try to talk to Democrats because I want to know how a community like ours can stay cohesive and we can work together even with different ideas and we can find common ground. And we did that tonight. Mental health is definitely something all of us should be. When we had our last election, that was my first question to every person running for office. What do you see happening with the mental health situation in this country?
Be right back.
It's close to my heart, and it's something that I want for my families. I want for my neighbors to have an access or the ability to get help. But we also have to have DAs and lawmakers ready to deal with it in a real way. And so it's all of our problem if they don't. That's something that's very real for all of us. So I would like to let everybody know that there is going to be a memorial ride for Charlie Kirk, and it's starting here in Tooele County. And many of you know that one of our guests in the past is Christopher Fields. He's been awesome. He helped create the Trump train years ago, and he's also an effective person who really could get things done and move people and motivate them. And we're doing he and Kish North are putting together a memorial ride in honor of Charlie Kirk, and this is going to start tomorrow. They're going to roll out of Veterans Park at 3 p.m. and a car, truck, motorcycles welcome. You can decorate your vehicle with flags. It is about Charlie Kirk and it is about his memory. And they're going to roll out at Veterans Park 3 p.m. And then they're meeting at 4 p.m. at Southtown Mall in Sandy. And they also say, dress up your cars, bring a chair, bring your flags, and they're going to unite there. So starting Tooele County at 3 p.m., it is posted on our Political Head Trauma Facebook page. Both of the rides are. And if you want to get engaged and if you feel like you still are in mourning or you need community right now to deal with this loss, you just want to honor him, do it with our group here in Tooele County and go out to Southtown. If you want to get on a motorcycle ride before it gets too cold, tomorrow will be a great, beautiful day. And hopefully we can really get some people engaged and involved to show up and represent Charlie Kirk. This one you're showing is the one once you get to Southtown. The original one is it's a bit up. I should combine the two. I got them at different times. So it's the memorial ride right below this. No, below that. That's our September 11th. It's right below that one. There you go.
Well, I would say if you're a Democrat or other, you should go on this ride too. Right now, I think we should all come together as a community and country and say this was wrong. And I think the Democrats would be served well to show up and say this was wrong. There has been lots of Democrat podcasters. What's that? Stephen A. Smith. What he said was very strong, very moving. Yeah.
Well,
and he's
inspired the people that were making a mockery of it as well. Which
yes,
was impressive.
And I expect to see Stephen A. Smith on a presidential political ticket over the next few years for the Democrats.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then you got Cenk Uygur come out, and he's come out. He's made multiple videos saying this is awful and all of that. So I think if I was a Democrat, I would show up to this. I would have a Democrat flag on my truck or whatever. I don't know if Democrats have flags, you know, whatever. I think I would show up to this. Just show up. It would be a point, like if a Republican did this, I think Republicans should show up and say, no, we are going to cast you out if you bring that violence against someone who's just there to talk.
And I think it's a safe place. I think that you would find this group of people would be welcoming to Democrat, to independent, to whoever.
If you're a Democrat,
to mourn and grieve, and they'd welcome anyone in there who wants to stand with that memorial. You're in a safe place with this.
Yeah, if you're a Democrat and you find any of it unsafe, you go find Holly or Chris Fields, and they will ensure your safety, and you will not have to leave. I promise you that.
No.
And if I'm there, find me. I might be there. Depends on how tomorrow's hunt goes.
Oh, that's cocky. You might.
It all depends. It all depends.
How many you pulled for? One?
Oh, you only get Utah's only a one state. You only get one. I wish if Maryland had it, like Maryland, you draw it as like a 12-day hunt. When I looked at it, I went there and almost stayed to hunt about 10 years ago when my brother was stationed there. And you go there and you draw out, that's the first animal to kill. So it'll say, you know, buck or doe. That's the first animal you harvest. And after that, harvest as many as you can.
Wow.
Now, they're not very big there, and they've got a lot of them. Pennsylvania was hiring people to come hunt them there. New York was hiring people.
Tell them what you're hunting.
I'm hunting an antelope. You know, I got an antelope hunt that goes on for the next 7 days. And then in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I go on my elk hunt, which is also a 7-day hunt. So hopefully the elk hunt's going to be the harder one to fill, I'm sure. The antelope shouldn't be easy, but it should be relatively easy, you know, and I'll be adding another head to the wall, and I will be eating meat. What, you sit in here with I'm not some of the heads.
My father had he had antelope, and he had 2 giant elk, and he had his deer, and to me, it was the wonderful memories we made as family, and they ate everything they killed and stocked my grandmother's refrigerator and freezer with meat and fed my neighbors and things like that. I just don't like venison, and I don't like dusty heads on my wall, but that's just me.
None of mine are dusty. I've made a rule, unless it's a 5-point and 30 inches or bigger, I'm not going to do a full mount, a full dress mount. I just do European mounts.
Yeah.
So it's a dusty skull.
That's cool. Well, please consider going on the ride tomorrow. And also, if you're having mosquito issues, reach out to me. I will get you in touch with Mosquito Shield. They've got a great deal going, and I'm not sure if it's expired or not. Also, I need to sign up for the class that you're doing. It's a concealed carry class. And
both numbers are in the show notes for this show right now. Both phone numbers for Mosquito Shield and for Shield Maiden. Sign up for the class. Come join us there. You know, it's going to be a good one. It's next month on the
and bring a friend, you guys.
12th and 13th. It's going to be better if you bring a friend or bring a spouse. It's good if you come with your spouse. You know, hopefully it's just going to be an experience for everyone, and it's not something that's needed.
No, but this is something that I think a lot of people feel helpless right now. And if they had confidence in their firearm and were willing to carry and feel like they want to carry for their own safety, this is the place to learn, because you will walk away from this class with full confidence in your weapon, and hopefully full confidence in the fact that you never want to use it. That's the number one thing. You learn everything, every trick possible, so that you never have to use it. And when
first First half of the first day is avoidance.
And if
You
you
won't
ever
even.
have to use it, you want to do it right, and
Yep.
you want to do it safely. So,
Yep.
and lawfully. So these things are
Yep.
really important. So please, if you've ever been interested before, this class is still kind of chilly, but it's also warm during the day. You get
It's
night training, which is awesome.
a perfect
And
class.
it is a great time of year, and I just love this group of trainers and Mallory, and of course Jared is a trainer, and Fred, is he still a trainer?
No.
All right, I'm out. If Fred's not a trainer, I'm out. Just kidding. Is
All
Rooster
right.
still a trainer?
Huh?
Is Rooster still a trainer?
Let's talk after all this.
Excellent. Well, it's worth it. It's worth it. You will love it, your experience. And I suggest it. I've already taken it once, and now I'm taking a new one and a different one that comes from your conceal. And that's a hard part for me, is where to conceal. So
Yours is going to be coming from an off body
yeah,
option. Yeah, it's a John Farnham course. It's, he's kind of world renowned for his pistol defense, basic pistol defense, and it is his course that's taught by Mallory.
it's great.
Yeah.
And top notch. And for what you're getting for the money, it's incredible. Learning from John Farnham himself would be way more than anyone could afford. I think.
Yeah,
you learn from him, and you see the worth there, but you're a teacher of this course, and I just love that for you.
Well, everyone, it's a good show. Thanks for joining us. Let's all, before we hang up, let's have if we can, a minute of silence, that we can maybe have a healthy restart. Well, there's an awkward pause for everyone.
Well,
I hope you gathered your thoughts. If you're a praying person, pray there. I do love people who pray.
And just remember, 9/11, never forget 9/11 and the victims there. There are still people dying from the effects of cleaning up 9/11. And also, remember the families and the kids. We were kids, kind of. We were young adults when it happened, but many of our kids don't even know about it. It's not taught in schools.
It's got to be like being born in the 60s and learning about Pearl Harbor,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
this was a big thing, and it had a big effect. The difference was, I think, is our actions during World War II had us come out as heroes. And I'm concerned our actions during the global war on terrorism didn't.
Not so much.
And I think that's it. Yeah, we don't need to tread that ground, but I feel like we spent a lot of goodwill erroneously at that time.
Well, and I would like to thank everybody for the well wishes, and I would like to just say my heart is with you if you are grieving the loss of Charlie Kirk. I had a really hard day on Wednesday. I went straight to God with it because I was just devastated by it. I've met him. I saw him in Milwaukee, and he is the real deal, and his wife is the real deal. They were a beautiful family and two very young children. And there was honor. JD Vance was here, and Kash Patel and his wife, they flew on Air Force Two, and they took his body back to Arizona on Air Force Two. And then it was the most beautiful trail of lights and sirens following his casket all the way to where they were taking him. And there were people pulled over to see it. You can tell the effect it's had, a ripple across the world, but especially in Utah and especially in Arizona. And I guarantee that all over this country, especially, like it's people that never met him, they're learning about him. People that didn't really like him, they're standing up for him. And young people that were driven by him, though they're mourning, they're also waking up a little braver and bolder today to keep his message going. Like I said, this shooter thought that he was eliminating someone and an idea of someone when he actually created. He started something much bigger than he could ever imagine. I'm sure of it. People are not going to stay quiet and be bullied out of fear. Not anymore. We're watching it change in people who are more conservative and on the right, even the people who are center and independents. They're tired. That is why Trump is even in office. They're exhausted from all of this, especially the politically correct stuff and the science denying stuff about boys and girls and sports and restrooms and just all of it. They're exhausted. They're exhausted and they're mad. So we need them to get to that place where they're not mad. They're just brave and they're courageous in that way, but they continue unafraid and they speak with boldness and question with boldness, and we hear each other. That's what's important. And we're not rioting in the streets, and we're not shooting guns in the air out of celebration, you dipshits at CNN. Crazy.
One of the hardest ones is at the thing, they're saying his daughter tried running to him.
And I didn't know his children were at that event. I know his wife
that
in,
is
so I don't
that-
know if that's accurate. I thought they flew the wife in last Wednesday night.
no. Apparently they were there, is what everyone's saying, but I
Huh.
don't know. I wasn't there. Again, man, we hit
Little girl was his world, and she was his.
we hit a rough place in this country, and I think hopefully this is a sea change. I need to catch up with Katie Adams Anderton, see what the word on the street is going on. But anyways, everyone, have a wonderful weekend. Be safe, be happy. Get together with your family. Try to do something with your family, with friends. Build that community. Talk to your neighbor. Have a
Talk to your
barbecue.
kids. Give your kids a hug. Find out what your kids are going through.
100%.
Try to get through to them. Have a conversation. See where they are mentally, and see how we can get through to them and make sure that they trust you and can talk to you at any time. This could happen to anybody. It's just the world we're living in now. We've got to be very, very attentive.
Yep. All right, everyone. Have a good weekend.
We love
Be
you.
safe.
Thanks.
Yes.